The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Emma Williams here from Exago, bringing you another support lab. Please let me know that you can see my screen before I go too far into the presentation here. Just a Y or a yes into the questions pane would be very helpful there. Awesome. All right, great. Thank you guys so much. And good morning again. So welcome to our support lab. Today, we're going to be talking about dashboard KPIs. So this is a bit of an interesting support lab. We took a break from the deep dive into technical features. Last month was a doozy with 4 heavy-handed support labs. So this month, we're stepping back into the front end of things. We're going to talk about some functionality that is more use case driven. And it should be rather quick, honestly. We shouldn't be here for more than a half an hour today, but we'll see. I tend to get verbose. Great, so let's get into it. The lab overview today. What is a KPI and how can I build one? So that's going to be the first thing we talk about. I want to make sure everyone is on the same page. Everybody knows what we're talking about, the ways that we can accomplish this in Exago. After we talk about that, we're going to discuss why we would want to build one in advanced reports. So of the possibilities, why would we use one tool that Exago offers over another? At that point, I've built a whole bunch of KPIs using whatever tools I'd like, but now I need to put them all on a dashboard and I'd like them to look uniform. So how do we style them all to maintain that uniform look across our dashboard? And then of course, we're actually going to do all of this today in my local copy, just like normal. So the first question, right? What's a KPI? How can I build one? We're going to start there, and we're actually going to stay right on this screen to do so. A KPI is a key performance indicator. Generally, they are high-level aggregates rolled all the way up. Usually, they're full data set summaries, at least in the context of the dashboard. Now, sometimes they're not. And when they are partials or there are other functionalities we want to build into them, that might be when we would transition into building them in a different designer in Exago. So the next question is, why would we build them in advanced reports? The 5 reasons that we will talk about today, the 5 features of advanced reports that you might want to take advantage of in your KPI, are going to start with partial aggregates or groupings that we need to utilize to get the correct value that we're looking for. We might want dynamic labels or additional display content on the KPI. One thing that I think is important to remember is that the dashboard designer was built to make things easy, and as such, it does make a number of assumptions regarding what you're allowed to display, how it looks. It gives you a default look. And it makes it really easy and quick to build up a bunch of KPIs and visualizations. But then maybe sometimes we want to just extend a little bit past that. And at the same time, we want to maintain the same look and feel using advanced reports. Top or bottom end filtering is a feature in advanced reports that we might want to take advantage of. Linked reports, this is a little bit less specific to the actual KPI value, more regarding the user experience. But if I'd like to use a linked report, advanced reports makes that so easy. Finally, if I need cell references, again, to be used in calculating my KPI. So a lot of these are really focused on the nuances of the value that you're looking to display. As always, a lot of what you'll need to do here depends on the data model that you're working with. If I have a view or any data object that is set up specifically for a set of KPIs, I can likely utilize the dashboard designer for more of these use cases. All right. So let's hop into my local copy. We're going to build a couple in advanced reports. We're going to talk about maintaining that uniform style. And we're going to do some together, of course. So we have a dashboard on screen. So as I move through this content, I just want to mention that if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the questions pane. A couple colleagues here with me to help with moderating those questions. They will be answering them as I go. If there are any that are great for the group, I'll say them out loud like usual. But don't be shy, please. So let's talk about this dashboard a little bit. I have a few charts that break everything down by month. So on the bottom, we have a chart showing employee revenue per month, and it's just for 2019. As you can see, this is sales by employee for the year 2019. This also is 2019 data. This is a historical dashboard comparing many metrics from 2019 to this year. Now, the KPIs are really where that comparison comes into play. The two charts on the right and on the bottom are not the focus of the lab today. They're just sort of building up a more realistic dashboard. So let's really focus on the KPIs. From left to right, we have a key performance indicator showing us our highest earning month over the last 2 years. From 2019 to 2020, we're simply looking at the total revenue generated in each month and only displaying the highest value. Now, ideally, this is updating pretty regularly, as the goal is obviously to make more sales every month than you did the month before. So this needs to be pretty dynamic. The second is showing orders from this month. So this KPI is actually taking a look at the current month and then rolling up a count of any orders that were placed in that month. The third is a percent change. So it's looking at August of this year versus August of last year and comparing revenue, giving us our percent change. You can see that the Northwind employees are way up this year from August of last year. One of these was built right on the dashboard. The other two are advanced reports. So we're going to do all three today, but really focus on the advanced report ones. We'll go over to the designer. All right, so if you hadn't guessed, orders this month is the one that was built right on the dashboard. I actually wanted to highlight this because in 19.2, we enhanced our dashboard designer such that these KPIs are built on advanced reports. Now, this was to give us a platform to build more and more functionality into the dashboard designer. One of the things that it allowed, and we surfaced right away, was the option to use formulas for your visualizations, your KPIs right on the dashboard. You can see that this KPI is actually a nice if statement that looks to check each order date, see if the year of the order date is equivalent to the year of today. So this is dynamic, right? Every year it's going to update, every new month it's going to be different. It does the same check with the month of the order date against the month of today, and those are both just wrapped in this and, so both need to be true. If they're both true and the first argument as a whole returns true, we return a 1, else we return a 0. Now this is crucial to the way the formula works on the dashboard, because the whole thing is wrapped in an aggregate because it's on a dashboard, right? So we can see that I choose an aggregate here. I chose sum and then wrote my formula accordingly such that it's adding up every returned value of 1 and thus gives me a count of any orders that met that criteria. It's a little tricky, I totally get it, that we're using a sum to count, but this is one way that you can actually accomplish things like this right on the dashboard. Cool. So that's cool, but it's not the focus today. So let's move on over to the highest earning month. All right. So we're actually going to build this. I'm going to start from scratch. We're going to do this all together. I'm going to start a new advanced report. And we're going to do, let's give it a name. Highest earning month. Again, this part doesn't matter. We're going to select a folder to save it in. I'll just grab orders and order details. Now the first important piece is the sorts. So what we're trying to do for this KPI is bucket our data into each month and year combination. So for every unique year-month combo, we want to see an aggregate value of the total revenue, right? That's the first step. Once we accomplish that, we want to shift over to only displaying the highest value. Okay, great. So the first thing that we need to do is get our sorts in order. Now we're rolling up by month, but we do need a primary sort on the year since we want to break up the data by year and month. So this part is pretty easy. And we'll just do another one on the month as well. Now our grouping is actually going to be on month again, and we'll see how having the year as the primary sort really breaks up our data for us. We're not going to put any filters on this one for, that's not true. We're going to filter this one to be in the last 2 years because we do want this one to be just the highest revenue value in the last 2 years. So what we're going to do is set this to is between, and then use first day of last year and today. Everything that we're building today should be dynamic such that it updates on its own. You shouldn't have to come back in and change any of these as time progresses, which is one of the nice things and really one of the crucial things about building these. It wouldn't be very helpful if it wasn't at least a little bit practical. Okay, great. So the next thing that we're going to do is simplify our canvas a little bit. We don't need all of this real estate. We definitely don't need a detail section. We actually only need one column as well. We do need a group header on the month, so I'm going to start by adding that and actually delete the page header section as well. We are building something that's not meant to stand alone as a report. So for any of you that have built charts to go on dashboards, this is very similar. You're building a piece of something else. I'm just going to insert a couple more rows. I know that I want 4. The first time I did this, I built this a little bit slower, played with it, guess and check, all that good stuff to see what looked good. I've come up with what I think is the best combination of formatting and styling and functionality. So that's what I'll be showing you guys today. But certainly for your own dashboards, you might play around with it a little bit and see what you like. Now, the first thing we're going to do is put the aggregate value right in this month header. So let's, super easy, right? It's just an ag sum of the revenue. It lives in a month grouping, so it's going to return for each month. There you go. All right, now if we run this, we're just going to see one revenue value per month. It's just a page of data, so we probably have it right, but there's nothing to indicate what these are actually representing on the output here. So the next thing that we're going to do is give it a label. Now, on the dashboard, we saw a label that was month year, right? Now, you might think, okay, I'm going to concatenate together the month of the order date and then the year of the order date. There's actually a simpler way to do this. If we drop order date into this field, and then we can actually use our format cells menu, which comes in pretty handy. Format it as a date and just use a custom date format. I want the full month and the full year, and that'll go ahead and output nicely for me. We'll just center these and then run it again, and let's see what we got. Awesome. So I mentioned before, but I'd like to clarify with the visual aid in front of me, the primary sort on the year means that I'm going to get all of my data for 2019 broken down by month, and then all of my data by 2020. That's really crucial to this because if I only had the sort on month, it would roll all of my January data up into the into one value for both years. Oh, and a great question. I did just type that custom date format in manually. As long as it adheres to .NET standards, you can actually do that right in the Format Cells menu. And thank you, Tim, answered that pretty quickly. You guys are great. All right, so actually if we scan this output, we'll know what value we're looking for. I did that ahead of time and we're gonna be looking for this one. As shown on the dashboard, April of 2020 was our highest month so far. So how do we get this to display just that one value? Well, top end filtering comes in super handy for these use cases. We go over to top and bottom. We're gonna first check the box so that this functionality is applied. We want the top one. So I'll change that value to 1, and we want the top revenue value. Cool. So if we press OK and run this report, we're going to get just that one value. this is great. Now, a couple things that I'm sure you guys have identified. It doesn't look anything like the KPI that we put on the dashboard. We need a little bit of formatting to the value itself. Let's go ahead and go through that process. The first thing I'm going to do is format this as a monetary value. You guys have seen this plenty of times. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is apply some formatting that makes it match the dashboard. And again, I've gone through the steps to find what I think looks best. If you guys are looking to simply recreate what I'm doing today, follow these steps exactly. If you want something slightly different, this is just the general process that you'll probably take. So the first thing we want to do is make the KPI bigger. I'm going to turn that to 30. I'm going to change the font actually because I did build my whole dashboard in Open Sans. So we're going to do this one as Open Sans semi-bold. I am going to change the color, but I'll wait on that in just a minute and explain why. So the next thing we're going to do is change the font size, the actual font itself, as well as make this one italic. So that will match the labels that are automatically applied on the dashboard. The last steps to format this here, we did just get a question come in and I will run through that as soon as I finish the formatting. Let's just round out this process here, but I did see the question, I promise. The last steps here are to change the colors, right? So the background color of our dashboard canvas is pretty dark. I'm gonna grab that color and pop back over here. We're actually going to apply that to all of these. So since we're putting an advanced report on the dashboard, we can't simply set the background to be transparent on the advanced report. We need to color the cells here, whatever color we'd like them to show up. And then the text, of course, will turn white. Now, one thing that I think goes a long way for dashboard formatting is actually coloring this KPI. If you look at the output, we have applied this theme to the rest of our charts, and it really brings the dashboard together. If we use the theme on the KPI, it'll take the first color, so this purple. All of them would be that purple though if I built all of them on the dashboard. So I think it adds a lot to the dashboard to pull out other colors from the theme and use those as your other KPI colors. If you're building them in advanced reports, you have this advantage because you can color them manually. So I used this green. I'm just going to grab the color and we'll go ahead and do that here. And there you have it. This is our KPI. It's formatted nicely. You can see this is the same thing that I put on the dashboard. You can see how it really goes with the rest of the dashboard. The question that came in was, can we please review how we got only the highest month again? So absolutely, of course we can. I'm going to undo it and then do it again. So we have a feature called top and bottom N filters, where N is a number that you can provide. So when I first ran this report, we have different values for revenue, right? And obviously one of them is the highest. I'm able to order all of these. What I can do is go back to that filters menu, select top and bottom, and I just have to check this checkbox to apply the filter to actually limit the report to the top and the bottom values. I want the top one of this value of my revenue values that are returned. I could add a group if I was doing something that required top revenue of the employees or something like that. But this one is really straightforward. So this is all that we need. While we're here, if you're not familiar with this feature, the ability to simply sort by the aggregate as opposed to actually filter out just the top N values is available by checking this all button. So if you haven't played with this feature, there's some really cool things you can do here. All right, and that was a great question. So at this point, it looks like the questions pane's doing all right. You guys are following right along, and my colleagues are on top of everything as always. So I'm gonna go ahead and move over to the next KPI. Just to recap here, we covered building our first KPI in an advanced report where you need to use top N filtering partial aggregates and want dynamic labels included on the output. The other thing that we could put here, and I actually built this into the initial dashboard, is a drill down. So you guys know how to apply linked reports. I'm not going to go through this process today. There's a whole lab on linked reports. But this is another advantage. If I wanted to actually see the orders that contributed to our highest earning month, I could configure a linked report using advanced reports. All right, so now we're going to build one more. It is also partitioned from the dashboard, but for a different reason this time. This KPI shows a % change in revenue this month of this year versus this month of last year. Looking at August 2020 versus August 2019, and then giving us the % change there. So let's build this one now as well in a new advanced report. Call this one % change. We'll grab the same data. Great. So we're also going to want to sort on year and month here in the same order. All right. Now we do need some filters on this one, but I'm going to come back to the filters menu and apply them in a little bit because I'd like to explain why they're necessary. So let's go ahead and press finish here. And we're just going to start right in a blank designer like I usually do here. All right, so the first thing, actually the only sections that we need here are going to be a detail section and a report footer or header. So I'm going to add a footer. I'm going to delete the page header, and I'm going to add one row to the report footer for now. I think that's all we'll want. Cool. I also only need 2 columns, so I'm going to simplify this quite a bit. First thing is the formula that goes in the detail section. So what we're looking to do here is very similar actually to what we did in the KPI that we built right on the dashboard. We're going to do a check using an if statement for when the order date is. So if it's in the same year as today, and then if it's in the same month as today, that's going to look like this. If and again, right, because we need to check for both year and month, and they both need to return true in order for us to want the result. So we're going to do year, order date equals year of today. And then find my and we're going to want my missing one. No, here we go. And then we're going to want month of order date equals month of today. Great, and let's just make sure that closes my and. Awesome. If those are both true, I want to return the revenue in this case. Else, I want to return 0. So we are going to wrap this formula in an ag sum as well, just like we did on the dashboard. But instead of returning a 1, we're returning a revenue field, which means that our ag sum is now actually going to aggregate all of the revenue values as opposed to act as a pseudo count. So we're using it a little bit differently, but it is the same idea. Another good question, the formula bar actually is a new-ish feature. Last 2 versions, 19.2 or 20.1, and I'm hoping Travis and Tim can keep me honest on which one that was. But it's really cool, and if you haven't tried it yet, you definitely should. It's a lot of fun. The next formula is so similar that I can actually copy this and just make one tweak. The only thing that we want to do differently in our second sort of evaluation, right? These are going to go through each record. So they're sort of evaluating each record for the ones that meet the condition. And the only thing that we need to change here is that we want to look for last year. We still want the same month as today. We still want August, but we want last year. So we're just going to do year of today minus 1. All right. So that's probably the most complicated part. At this point, we're in the report footer. We're going to put that ag sum formula that I mentioned, and we're just going to roll up the results of each of these formulas. So let's do ag sum. And this is the fun part. We hit the cell references. I want to use A1 here. In this one, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to want B1. Oops. Awesome. Great. We're going to suppress both of these and finally put our KPI in the last row here. And I merged them together so they're effectively one cell. This is what's actually going to display the KPI. And we are calculating percent change. So at this point, we just need a quick current minus previous over previous times 100. So lots of parentheses and cell references. So let's see, we want A2 because that's the total value for this year. So current minus previous, this is going to be B2. Close that, divided by previous, which is going to be B2, all times 100. Let's see, is this checking out correct? It is. Looks good. Cool. And just a reminder, the number that we're looking for is about 88%, I believe. 81.88. Good thing I checked. Cool. All right, so we're getting the value correct. Now, I mentioned that there was going to be some filtering that we did. The only thing that we haven't added that is present on the dashboard is this month underneath, right? It might be nice to indicate what month the percent change is actually for if someone has a, forgets that we're in August or something. So what we can do here is, again, add a row below. We're going to add the order date, and then we're going to add a custom date format. So let's go ahead and do those steps quick. Format cells. And this time we just want the month. Now, again, you guys could do this with a formula. We use month formulas all the time, so I thought it might be cool to show you a different way that you might do it too. Now watch what happens when I run this. Aha. So this data is not for October, it's for August. And we know that because we're using these checks to make sure that everything is rolling up to equal the month of today. But what's happening is this order date field lives in my report footer, and I haven't filtered the data set that's being returned. If you put a data field in a footer section, the last value, a footer section that is not, that data field doesn't repeat for. If I put an order date field in an order ID group footer, we're going to show one order date per order ID. If I put it in a report footer, we're just going to pull the last value. So in this case, the last value is apparently October, the last month that I have in the data set, even though it's not being considered in the roll-up, in the percent change calculation. To that end, I can actually apply a filter to my report, and I can do this dynamically such that it updates as today changes, as the date changes. The other benefit to doing this is that maybe it improves performance of the report. Maybe it goes a little bit faster. I actually see a very, very slight change, even just locally. And my data set is pretty small, so I think it's definitely worth considering. What we're going to do with the filters is, again, very similar to the formula check. So we're going to want the year of the order date. Now we can actually turn these into Booleans, which is pretty cool. So if I do the year of the order date equal to the year of today, and then I also want, and bear with me, I know this doesn't make much sense yet, the year of the order date equal to the year of today minus 1. All right, so I'm sure that everyone is saying these conflict. They're not, there's no data, right? This doesn't make any sense. If you group them together and then select or with next filter, we can actually read this down at the bottom. So what we've chosen is show me data where the year of the order date equals the year of today, or the year of the order date equals last year, the year of today minus 1. So The last thing that we need to do is the month. This one's much simpler because we only need one of them. So we're going to check that the month of the order date is equal to the month of today, which is August. Now, this hasn't changed our percent change calculation. You can build this KPI without these filters because you're bucketing the data yourself. You've essentially excluded anything that doesn't meet our criteria by returning a 0 in the if check. But using the filters means that we can use other data in this report footer for things like labels. This now shows August. The last thing I need to do here is format the KPI. And this is going to be very similar to what we have done before. So we're going to go ahead and format this to look like a percent first and foremost. And then we'll make it bigger and make those same cosmetic changes that we were doing before. If you guys do have any questions, this is sort of the conclusion to the lab, but I am going to obviously format this for you, and we'll talk about the next lab. If you've got any questions or thoughts that you want to put together, feel free to use this time to put them in the chat. We don't have any additional brand new content for you guys today. All right, so we're going to do the Open Sans semi-bold for both of these again. Cool. I'm going to make this one 16 and italics. We're going to add the little bit of padding that I found just sort of helped with the look on the dashboard. It helped it space a little bit nicer. I do, just one thing that I didn't mention, I do leave these to auto sizing. This one I just dragged open, but everything on this dashboard is these two KPIs. All of the rows in those advanced reports are set to auto size. And I found that that was the best behavior on the dashboard. So you might try that as well. All right, so I'm going to turn the background color to match, and then turn the font to white of the label. For this one, we'll use a different color. Again, I believe I used a blue this time. Cool. All right, great. So quick recap. We talked about KPIs, how you can build them on the dashboard or in advanced reports, and why you might do it in using both methods. There are obviously advantages to both, and using them together is, in my opinion, the best of both worlds. I think when we're able to take use cases for each, we can build something that really gives us the information that we want and looks uniform at the same time. The next lab that we have is actually on high availability. So at the end of next month, we will be talking about high availability and how to make Exago highly available, or rather how to utilize Exago in supporting a highly available system. So please tune into that one. It will be a technical lab, of course, but no code or anything, just sort of architectural discussion. If you would be so kind, we would love if you could fill out the survey at the end. The responses are really important to us. Believe it or not, we do read them after every lab. I love hearing what you guys think, good or bad, because we can use it to change going forward. All right, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for attending. As always, happy reporting, and we will see you next month.